Welcome to Backroom Talk. Speaking of focus
Yes. Today's topic.
and productivity,
That was an incredible segue.
yeah, we have to figure out why we're not productive and why we're inefficient. When I think about things that are holding coaches back from being productivity, is themselves.
I think it's incredibly important to set time, set intentions, how you're going to be using different blocks of time or not using that time if it's time off, whatever you want to do. Ensuring that you have boundaries around when you're working, when you're playing, when you're communicating with clients, when you're not.
To listen to more Backroom Talk, be sure to subscribe. Learn to design personalized programs with the OPEX system of coaching by heading to opexfit.com.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Backroom Talk. I'm Georgia here with Carl. How are you, Carl?
Oh man, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing very well too.
You sure?
Yeah, I am. We just
Positive?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah, no, we had a good little laugh prior to hitting record today. For anyone who is a Will Ferrell, Danny McBride fan, what's the name of the clip?
Yes, man. Gosh, if you're listening to this, you're really going to appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, I don't know, something might be wrong with you. So you have to go to YouTube, and the title of this clip is called Let the Boy Watch, and it's about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Will Ferrell, Danny McBride. Man, it is funny. We watched it in a staff meeting earlier, and it was a hit.
This is what we do at OPEX headquarters. We watch funny YouTube clips.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. If it's immature humor, we apologize in advance.
But if you guys are listening to this podcast, you're probably okay with a little immature humor. We keep things fairly focused on the education side, but we like a laugh sometimes. Let's be real.
Yeah. Speaking of focus.
Yes. Today's topic.
And productivity, yeah.
That was an incredible segue.
Yeah.
Very
It's
impressed.
almost like we planned that.
It is, but we
Yeah.
didn't, guys. We really didn't. But we are talking productivity as it relates to the fitness coach today. This conversation comes off the back of some content that we released recently inside of LearnRx. It's actually free and available to everyone. So Carl put together a nice little course on individual design efficiency with CoachRx. There are some really great broad principles of efficiency and productivity as a coach. And then there's also some advice on utilizing the CoachRx platform specifically too. So whether or not you're in that thing, you're going to get some really great benefits from the course. So go ahead. Sign up for that LearnRx free class. We will include a link to it in the description below. So you've got 2 pieces of homework. Make sure you watch Let the Boy Watch. And then number 2, sign up for individual design efficiency with CoachRx. I would not blame you if you went with the Let the Boy Watch clip first and then went to the efficiency class after.
I was actually thinking as you said that, I was like, are we setting the bar too high if they listen to or watch the Let the Boy Watch clip first? It's a pretty good class. So we could hold up. But man, they won't laugh as hard as the YouTube clip.
No, I think your improv skills and Will Ferrell's improv skills are on a different level.
A quick story. Do you know where that that YouTube clip, not where it came from, because obviously it came from those guys, but internally where that YouTube clip came from?
No.
When we were filming Mixed Modal in 2018-19, there was a Mixed Modal session where we went down the eastbound and down rabbit hole on YouTube.
Oh.
So Emma, sorry. Yeah, we were talking to Emma before we hit record here. Emma will remember that clip because that was in the cabin, the Mixed Modal cabin. Yeah, Let the Boy Watch was one of the videos. We consumed a lot of content in that cabin over that 6+ months of filming that course.
I can just hear James laughing
He died.
hard.
Yeah, he died.
He would have loved that.
Yeah.
Well,
That's good.
let's move on to some serious business, which is improving efficiency as a coach when you're doing individual design. And the topic of today is productivity as it relates to the coach. So I guess first overarching question, Carl, and I think some groundwork we need to lay because we're using these words of productivity, efficiency, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We have to figure out what that actually means. So what is a productive coach or what makes a productive coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, going back to buzzwords and productivity and efficiency and all of that. Maybe internally, like I just feel like I'm kind of tired of hearing those words, because we've kind of beat them up because it's been such an issue for a lot of coaches, um, that have gone down this route of coaching professionally full time, where they're just like, I don't have time. This takes me too much time here, too much time there. And I think where we may have made a mistake in the past is that we kind of skipped all the reasons why that may take that coach that much time, or why they're not productive or inefficient. And we just like threw out all of these like solutions, right? We're like, oh, well, do this in your program design, consider this in coaching. And that stuff is still important. We're not going to stop saying that, but um, it kind of, we have to figure out why we're not productive and why we're inefficient. Uh, Going back to your question, what makes a productive coach? I think it's someone that feels like they have. I use this term quite often, or this thought of like working at a percentage of capacity. I think for a coach, it's someone that never feels like they're working at 100% of their own personal capacity. So I always throw around like the 85 to 90% capacity. It's like, hey, if you can kind of just like roll through with that capacity and like adding things and taking things away, or adding things without taking them if you're under capacity, or sometimes we get to 95, 98% capacity and coming up with a game plan to take those things away. I think a productive coach is someone that has a little bit of leeway to add another client, another two clients, another three clients, without absolutely going down the shitter in terms of time. And I don't want to go back to the word productivity, but time and ability to do that. So productivity it is very, very individualized, right? Productivity for me is different than productivity for you. Program design efficiency is different for me than it is for you. It's not always about trying to design a training program in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. There could be coaches that are extremely productive and they're spending 20 minutes per client every week, right? There's some things that you have to dig into. How much are they charging their clients? How many clients do they have? So on and so forth, that become realities. But yeah, productivity to me is just someone that has enough room to operate, and they never feel like they're at 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you try to operate at that 100% bandwidth, you can do it for a period of time, but it just ultimately ends to burnout and the inability to keep going. Like no one can operate like that for forever. When I was thinking about productivity, just to kind of echo what you said, it is so relative to the individual. I think it's important to consider that a coach needs to be able to make the level of income that they need to make to support whatever lifestyle they want to have. And obviously, there's things you can do with how much you're charging per client, but ultimately, it does often come down to being able to coach the number of clients that you need to make the level of income that you want to make. And secondarily to that, make sure that you're actually getting good results for those people, because someone could be writing, 200 programs a week in 5 minutes per program, making great income, but all of those clients are getting really shitty results. They're churning through clients faster than, I'm trying to think of something that goes really fast, but they're churning through clients really, really quickly, always onboarding new clients, trying to fill that hole in their bucket of clients leaving the system, bringing new ones in. And that is exhausting. Like that process is really, really tiring. That's a really extreme example. But I think when we consider productivity, we have to think about, is the person able to coach as many clients as they need to support the income that they want? Are they able to coach those clients effectively from the fulfillment perspective? Like productivity without thinking about, are we doing a good job with the work we're putting out, is empty. It's so shallow. So are we able to get those clients results? And yeah, that's going to be highly individualized. I think there's some coaches that, like you said, they could be spending 30 minutes or even an hour on program design and feel really happy and content and like they're doing productive work. But there's also people that want to, onboard more people. They want to get their work done faster and then go and enjoy life away from the computer. So for those people, feeling productive is getting through that work in less time.
Yeah, to me, productivity is a feeling more than anything else. Because how many times have you heard it? It's like I got so much done today. I feel super productive, or I felt productive, or I don't feel productive. I think productivity is a feeling. So because productivity is a feeling, and obviously there's objective measures that you can put together, and you're like, are you productive or not? Like you had these 15 things you needed to get done today. Did you get 13 of them done? Okay, cool. You were close to 98% productive. But when we start to think about productivity and that being a feeling, and there's objective things that we can look at, um, subjectively, I think that fulfillment plays a role somewhere in there. Because to have that feeling of productivity, I think you have to be fulfilled by what you're doing as well. Because I don't remember the last time I, uh, you know, ran across someone and they're like, "Man, I feel unbelievably productive, but I don't like what I'm doing." Like, you know what I mean? Like, they might just be like, "Oh, I'm just like getting a ton of work done," right? Or just like I'm just churning through a ton of work, or I'm just checking the boxes here, 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 and here. I'm clocking in, I'm clocking out. But I wouldn't say that that person is productive. So, because it is individualized, I think the feeling of being productive is a part of that.
Yeah, I love that. Productivity as a feeling is a really good way to think about it.
Hmm.
So, anything else on what makes a productive coach, or should
No.
we roll into some of the reasons why a coach is not productive?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, what's top of your list?
Top of my list is, oh, gosh, I have to put something at the top. Part of my list. I don't want to order them. Well, let's put it this way. One of the first things that comes to mind when I think about things that are holding coaches back from being productivity is themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's themselves. It's our brains holding us back from being productive. And we'll dig a little bit deeper into that, but just surface level, it's we're not allowing ourselves to be productive. We're distracted. We can't sit down. We can't focus on the task at hand, what's in front of us. I think that's the number one thing that holds coaches back from being productive is themselves and their minds and their brains.
And is that like something connected to the way that social media has warped our attention spans and the ways that like our brains have actually changed in terms of attention and what we're able to focus on and how long we can focus on that thing for?
I think it's more. It's a good question. It's easy to say, yeah, like this is the reason why, but I think it's more our lack of self control,
Mm-hmm.
and social media is just another thing that's there to take our attention away from the things we want, where we want our attention to sit. But I think if it wasn't social media, it would be something else. I think social media just does an incredible job at taking our attention and making us less focused. Um, and it's like, why do I say that? Because that's their intention, right? There's there's developers that are sitting in a room right now thinking about how can they steal another minute of your attention, right? Because that's what their business model is. They need to keep you on their platforms. So yeah, social media plays a part in it, but I think it comes down to our ability to, you know, uh, let's just call it, because I don't want to like blame us only for this, but accountability does fall on us to make that decision to be on social media or not to be on social media, or to build in a habit to pull up your cell phone and like pull up that social media app every 15 seconds or not. So I think it's self-control has a lot to do with it. But yeah, the way that society kind of sets us up for failure, to not be able to focus and have that self-control definitely plays a role in it.
Definitely. I mean, it does come down to how you set your environment up to as well. And I think a bad environment is a really common productivity blocker for coaches. It's kind of like you say self-control. I think of the example of you're working with a client on a weight loss goal and you tell them that you don't want them to have cookies in the house because they might be okay saying no to the cookies like, 5 or 10 times, but then the 11th time that they see those cookies when they open the pantry door, they're eventually going to go and eat them.
Yeah.
You can only rely on this idea of self-control or willpower for so long because eventually if that thing is in front of you as a constant reminder, it's there. You're just going to give in. It's too easy to be like, I'm just going to take the path of least resistance and eat that cookie, or open my phone and scroll Instagram.
Yep.
So thinking about environment and how we set ourselves up when we are a coach, like, do you have your phone right by you as you're programming? Do you have a bunch of windows up on your computer where you can go and read a blog and answer a Slack and do all these other things when you're supposed to be focused on the coaching process? Are you surrounded by pets or other distractions in the home that are going to draw your attention away from what you're supposed to be focusing on? So self-control is important, but we can make really deliberate steps to set ourselves up to have that be less of an issue.
Yeah, I think anytime we ever feel like we're not being productive, or we're not being as efficient as we want to be, I think it's helpful to just like stop, right? Like as soon as you feel that, just stop and think about what's taking away my attention right now. So it's like that constant self-assessment. So if it is something like that, right, Georgia, where it's like, man, I find myself 9 times out of 10, when I feel that feeling of not being productive or efficient, and I stop and I think about it, it's because I get distracted by X, right? Is X your phone with YouTube on it, and you just want to like listen to that or watch that next video, and they have that awesome algorithm that just like puts you to the next video where you're like, how did they know I wanted to watch that one too, right? Is it that? If that's the case, like you're saying, it's like, okay, maybe you need to remove YouTube from your phone. Maybe you putting your phone in the other room isn't actually the answer, because you're going to run into a circumstance where you're probably going to need your phone, right? So I think, and we'll talk about like getting to the root, but I think it's beneficial to try to identify what is the root, because kind of how we opened it, right? It's like us going to a coach and say like, use your hotkeys, and they're like, "Ooh, but I can't focus." They're just like, oh, it's cool. Use your hotkeys and Coach RX. It's gonna fix everything, right? Like that doesn't make sense. I don't know, when I hear like, put your phone over here or do this thing over there. It's like, well, you're not getting rid of your phone, right? Your phone's eventually going to be next to you, or you're going to find yourself in a situation where your phone's going to be next to you while you're designing a training program. So I think it's identifying what's inside of that phone that's distracting you.
For sure. When I think about the word productivity or lack of productivity, one of the things that comes to mind is the word procrastination.
Mm.
So that got me thinking about like, what are some of the reasons why people procrastinate? Why do they go to their phone to look at Instagram? Why do they get distracted by a puppy video on YouTube or whatever it might be? I think lack of confidence in what they're supposed to be doing is one of the pieces that pulls people away from what they intended their attention to be on, to something else that might be easier or more comfortable. Because if you don't feel really good and really confident and really like you have the right direction that you need to go in the task that's at hand, it makes sense that you're going to go look for something that's more comfortable for you to spend your time and attention on. So I think a big reason why coaches find themselves feeling unproductive in the moment as they sit down to program is the fact that they don't feel really confident about what they're trying to program.
Yeah, man, that's a great point. That makes me think of the concept around flow and being in flow. What are the factors that sit inside of there? It's like you have to be very knowledgeable about something to get into a flow into that thing, right? Like if I sit down and I try to write a novel right now, I'm going to end up pulling up my phone or like going for a walk and taking a bunch of breaks, because that's not my thing, right? It's like I'm not a writer. If a coach is sitting down, they're trying to design a training program, but they don't actually know what they're doing. They don't have confidence. Maybe they don't have the knowledge. They're going to go to that other thing because, like you said, it's more comfortable. So they can't actually sit down and really pay attention and focus on that task, because that task isn't, they don't have the ability to do that task. So they get distracted very easily. Or if they do have the ability to do that task, and that task is just like so mundane and so easy, and it's just like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be done? They might get distracted as well or disengage. So just the concept and idea of flow, it's like you have to be knowledgeable in that thing, and that thing has to challenge you just enough where it's like it's fun, right? It's like these little challenges, and you're just like accomplishing these little tasks as you go, and they're very rewarding as you're accomplishing them.
Definitely, there's got to be that like right amount of friction to make it feel enjoyable. And it's not to say that like you should always feel like you know exactly what you're doing as you sit down to program or consult with someone. Like, you're always going to run into new challenges. You're going to want to try new things that you might not feel 100% confident or capable in yet. And part of the experience of growing as a coach and educating yourself is by trying things out, testing things, trying new protocols, seeing if something sticks with a client or if it doesn't. So it's okay if you're not like 100% confident all the time. But I've found myself falling into the trap where I try to blend programming or coaching and education at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. So I'm like bouncing back and forth between I'm writing this training program and I'm looking this thing up and I'm reading this book and I'm watching this video and then I'm going back to writing the training program. And I think that's a really inefficient way to work when you're trying to do it all at once. So making sure that if you are trying something new that you're not 100% confident in and you need to like go to some resources and go to some other sources with, maybe don't try and do that all in the one block. Have your education on the one hand and then have your coaching time on the other hand.
Yeah. And you might feel that there might be someone else that's like, man, when I'm designing a training program, like maybe this person's realistically, maybe this person's like coaching 5 people, right? And they're like, oh, I'm good right where I am. And I'm in like this like exploration learning stage. And they're just like, when I design training programs, I actually enjoy bouncing there, bouncing back, bouncing there. And they're like, I'm never going to bounce there ever again, though, because I just like learned that thing, right? So, that's going back to like the idea of efficiency and productivity being extremely individualized. I don't think we can forget those things. And I think, just looking back to like 2014, 2015, when it was like designing training programs on a computer was like, uh, not it was almost at its infancy, right? Kind of like trying to be efficient on a computer. You're not like putting it in a doc and you're not just like putting it in an email. There was a lot of things that I tried back then, right? It was like, keep your fingers on the keys. Make sure that everything's completely closed and you're like, oh, well, I need to reference this thing, but I was told to keep it closed, right? And there's all of these like, templated rules that were kind of put on, this is what you need to do to be efficient. But I think, it's good to have those like, principles, but I think people need to play within those principles to feel and figure out what works for them. Because what didn't work for me is keeping my middle fingers on F and J as I was trying to like design. It's like, oh, I want to use this hotkey, but my pinky doesn't quite reach. I have like this broken pinky thing. But yeah, just little things like that. I think we have to allow coaches the freedom to explore within some of those principles.
Absolutely. Are there any other big productivity blockers that stand out to you?
So we hit on, getting in your own way.
Yep.
We hit on lacking confidence. You had a couple things inside of there, but it was like lacking confidence, not being able to find flow, maybe not being competent in that thing. The last thing is just having your own productivity system.
Mm-hmm.
And we love the word personalize, right? So I have to throw personalized productivity system inside of it. So it's like, what is your program design efficiency system? And I don't mean like be in Coach RX and it's going to save your life and you're going to be super productive. But if you're in Coach RX, it's like, what is your system inside of Coach RX? The way that I use Coach RX is different than the way another coach uses Coach RX. And I learn that every single time I'm having a conversation with a coach that uses Coach RX. Really funny. I'm sure Brandon's listening to this, but I was looming back and forth with Brandon earlier this week. Brandon Wilton, he's one of our ambassadors and one of the funniest dudes alive. We were kind of looming back and forth about some stuff in Coach RX, and he had some really good ideas on like to-do lists, and I'm like doing my loom, he's doing his loom, and we're kind of going back and forth, and I'm like being distracted with like what's on his screen and how he's using the system that we built. We're like, oh man, he's using that a little bit differently. That's actually a really good idea, right? Not that I need to try to like mimic that and do what he does. He has his own little personalized productivity system, and I think that's so interesting that we could be in the same system or using the same tools, but the way that we use them for ourselves, it's just tweaked a little bit to work for our brain and how we flow. So I think having your own productivity system is a personalized productivity system could be really beneficial.
Yeah, and I think like not to just take a little step back from that, like having a system full stop, right? How many newer coaches, or even coaches who've been in this for quite a long time, have you spoken with over the years who really reinvent the wheel with like every new client that they work with,
Mm-hmm.
and don't have really great systems and structures in place that work for them. So it's great to take something like Coach RX and the OPEX method and the systems we've laid out and personalize them for yourself. But even before you get to personalize them, you have to make sure you've got something in place.
Yeah, and we talk about that in the class. We talk about how you can get into Coach RX and use it, right, and make it your own and personalize that system for you. Because that's something I recognized really early, that just people use the same thing in different ways,
Yeah.
and usually the way that they use it is based on the way that they use the last thing, and they're just like, I really like that. That's not a part of this. I need to mimic that in some way, even if it's not an actual system, but just like the way that their brains work and the way that they operate. Sometimes people don't operate in like 1, 2, 3. They're like 1, 3, 2, if that makes sense, right? Like we don't all go through the same processing the exact same way. So yeah, that's why it's important, in my opinion, for people to have their own systems.
Definitely. One last thing that comes to mind with productivity blockers, and this connects to like everything we've already discussed, but like a super obvious one that stands out for me. And again, I chat with quite a lot of people who don't do this, is blocking time for
Mm-hmm.
both yourself and then also setting boundaries for your clients, and making sure that you have, if you're not using Google Calendar and an online calendar, I don't know how you're operating in 2022, but there's definitely a lot of people that don't use a calendar system to manage their time and to dedicate time to different coaching tasks. I think it's incredibly important to set time, set intentions, how you're going to be using different blocks of time or not using that time if it's time off, whatever you want to do. But ensuring that you have boundaries around when you're working, when you're playing, when you're communicating with clients, when you're not, and making sure that they know what those times are too.
Was that an intentional segue?
Was it?
I'm asking.
No.
'Cause
What did I say?
we're going to go into strategies, and pre-commit is strategy number 1.
Oh, it wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
So
But
that's
there we
good.
go.
That's a good segue. Yeah,
Let's go there.
yeah, let's jump into a few strategies that we have, and these are the same strategies that we laid out in the class, but we can elaborate on them a little bit more and kind of jump back and forth here. But strategy number 1 is pre-committing. So these are strategies to overcome your productivity blockers. So pre-committing, there's a lot of good stuff, I think, in pre-commitment or just committing. You know, not to sound cheesy, right? But there's something with sharing your goals and what you're doing, and your commitments with someone else, right? It's like, Georgia, I have 10 clients right now. I definitely don't have the systems in place to coach 12, but I want to coach 15. I'm going to build these systems for myself, and I'm going to have 15 clients in the next 60 days, right? And it's like, hold me accountable, Georgia. Ask me how that's going. Ask me how many clients I have next week, the week after. I think there's something to in that pre-commitment piece to sharing those things with other people and allowing them to be a part of that process.
Who would you share them with?
If that was my goal,
Yeah. If you were a coach and you were like, maybe you're operating your own business, right? Like you don't necessarily have a boss. Who was like a good person in your life to look to share those things? I know that's kind of personal, but
yeah, me personally, it would probably be, it'd probably be my wife. Yeah, I'd probably share that with my wife. I think it's important to share it with someone that you probably wouldn't be completely comfortable letting down, right? Or someone that you're not completely comfortable with them feeling like you don't do what you say, right? Someone that you feel like is going to hold you accountable, even if they don't actually hold you accountable. You're just like, I told them that thing, I got to do it, So, yeah, that'd probably be mine.
okay. Yeah, I think I would like maybe not. I think it might not be my husband. I
Yeah.
feel like the people that like love me unconditionally, it's easier to, I don't want to say let those people down, but you know that they're not going to like disown you just because you didn't get 15 clients. I might go to someone who's like a little bit further outside, who I know could just like, wave goodbye and like it would be no loss on their part if I was no longer a part of their life sort of thing. I think I might go to someone that I had like a slightly less personal relationship with, for if I was looking for accountability and like pre-commitment. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just interesting to think about.
Yeah, it is. Gosh. Yeah, I've thought about that quite a bit, like, doing what you say you're going to do and stuff like that. And I started thinking about it more when I had kids, and I was just like, I never want to tell my kids I'm going to do something and not do it, because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like not setting a good example, right? And how I think we should all be. So yeah, for me, it's actually, I think it would more fall on like the personal and like, dude, be who you say you're going to be. Like, don't be fake, right? So I think it would be someone that I'd have a really personal relationship with.
Yeah. So that's pre-commitment.
Yeah. That's just one piece of pre-commitment.
Continue on.
Next piece is just identifying your most productive time blocks and scheduling within those time blocks. And I think this is I don't even want to say like program design, right? Identify your most productive time blocks and insert X there. X being the thing that is the most challenging for you to be productive and efficient in. We've heard this said in a bunch of different ways, but it's like, do your most challenging thing first, right?
Eat the frog. That's what they
Eat the
say, right?
frog. Eat the frog. I don't get that. Can you explain that really
I
quick?
think like eating a frog is gross, so just eat it.
Oh, so just do it? Okay, cool. There's like a gym called Eat the Frog.
I
It's like a fitness franchise.
yeah, I don't know.
It's a,
I think it's about doing the uncomfortable thing like first. Like
yeah,
first,
yeah.
I mean that's the idea, right? But I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
hope
why you
they're
would
I
eat a
hope they're
frog.
having a bunch of success, but I would never name my business Eat the Frog. That just
No.
sounds silly.
No.
But yeah, eat the frog. I guess so. Yeah, do it.
Okay, sorry, I just looked this up. So it's Brian Tracy who wrote the book about it, and Mark Twain once said that if the first thing you do each morning is to eat a live frog, you can go through the day with the satisfaction of knowing that it is probably the worst thing that is going to happen to you all day long. So it's from Mark Twain.
Yeah, smart dude, but I don't agree with that. That's a terrible thing to do.
Gross.
It's like I'm gonna wake up and punch myself in the face as hard as I can every day because it can't get any worse than that. I'm good. Instead, let's figure out where we're most productive and put the most challenging thing that we have to do in that day. No offense, Mark Twain, if you're listening from wherever you are.
Beyond the grave.
Yes. I don't know if he's in this room right now. But yeah, just blocking out that time, and you hit it previously where it's like you have to plan productivity, right? Productivity doesn't happen by accident for most people. You have to plan that stuff. So the calendar stuff that you hit on and stuff like that, just make sure you're organizing your day so it's setting you up to be productive. If designing training programs is just like something you can do in your sleep, you have no issues doing it, you really enjoy it, it's like, and you're like, man, I really dread, you're a business owner, you're like, I really dread reconciling my financials, and I have to do that on a weekly basis. It's like maybe reconciling your financials is what you should put in your most productive time because that's the biggest drag for you and you have to be completely focused. Maybe it's not designing training programs.
For sure. And like on a personal note, I love working first thing in the morning. Like that my productive time is definitely before the sun is up, like first thing, get a few hours in. I love that. I think there's been a huge emphasis recently on people being like, yeah, work from like 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, this like idea that the best time to work, the most productive people are up, before the crack of dawn and working in those hours. That's great if it works for you, but just keep in mind that that might not be the case. You
That
might
doesn't
feel
work for most people.
no,
Yeah, I think we're probably the minority there.
but a vocal minority.
Yeah.
Like a lot, there's a
Yeah, yeah.
lot of influences in the productivity, hack yourself, live your best self-help life.
I'm not trying to eat frogs and hack myself. What's going on here?
No, but I think that is it's been put on a pedestal, this idea of like being up early and working early and again eating the frog, but that doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's my time. I don't even know if that's like it's definitely not like if we were to hook me up to a productivity mind tracker, that probably wouldn't be my most productive time, but it's the most calming time for me. So that like first thing in the morning, let's call it like not quite 4, but let's call it like 5 to 7:30 for probably, gosh, 8 years, 7 8 years. I've like Saturdays and Sundays. It's been like 5 to 7:30. Like I do this, like I program design like Saturday, Sunday. for the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like a part of what I do, and I feel awesome doing it, and it's just like a really good start to my day. But I'm one of those people that really enjoy doing it. A lot different when I was coaching like 70 people. I'm not coaching 70 people anymore. So to me, that's almost like it's like a break, sitting down and designing training programs for people. If I was coaching full time and I had like 50, 60, 70 clients, I definitely wouldn't feel that way, because I didn't feel that way back then. But now it's like, that's like my time to like meditation, relax, communicate with clients and write training programs. So, some people enjoy those first thing in the mornings, and most actually don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Figure out what works for you guys.
Our most productive time, actually, based on science,
Yes.
is 4 to 6 hours after we're at our highest temperature peak.
What's the reason for that?
Just like with the metabolic process and how blood moves, and when that blood gets to the brain and all of that. So our highest cognitive ability, which is different than your highest physical ability, is 4 to 6 hours post highest temperature.
Interesting.
And usually people's highest body temperature is about 2 hours prior to waking up. So if you wake up at 6, so it's what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 10-ish.
Yeah.
8 to 10 is cognitively when you should be at your best.
That makes sense.
Is that close for you?
I think so. My lifestyle means that, again, a lot of the times I end up doing the most productive work earlier, if that makes sense, like just the way that my day is set up. But I think about like weekends, and when I have the ability to exercise or program in that like window, I feel great. Like really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and then just committing to a program design versus a communication strategy. Some coaches can't do both of those at the same time. And when some coaches try to do that, it becomes very overwhelming, and that 60-minute program design block turns into 120 minutes. And the client that you're program designing for at 90 minutes is probably going to get a worse program design than the very first person you design a training program for. So I think for a lot of people, separating those communication focus blocks and the program design focus blocks could be extremely beneficial.
Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't mean that you're not going to like quickly reference something from the week prior as you go to
No, not at all.
program. And I think that's an important part of that program design process, but not like replying to a bunch of comments and doing a bunch of messaging while you're also
going through your dashboard.
Yeah.
Like getting 3 days, going 3 days back, commenting on work. Like, it's probably not the best time to do that when you're designing training programs.
It's just such a different mindset too, right? You're in this like kind of warm, like social, like I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it, but I'm in my like Coach Georgia on the gym floor on Zoom kind of mindset, even when I'm typing, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about that. I'm putting that energy out there into my laptop as I'm communicating with my clients on my dashboard. And then when I'm Georgia writing programs, I'm very like methodical, like focused on getting through things quickly, like
a fuck your feelings, right?
Yeah, I'm devoid of all emotion during that. I don't think about.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's just a different mindset.
I know what you mean when you have that like feeling when you're just like communicating. You're just like do versus like you're designing a training program. It's like locked in.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've felt that, but I never thought about it that way. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, and we kind of hit this already, but we'll repeat it. Getting to the root of what's blocking your productivity. And we've said it in a bunch of different ways, but you can band-aid those productivity blockers. An example that I've used is that we used in the class was using myself as one of those examples. If I was like, what are the things that block me in my productivity? It's like technology and communicating through technology. So it's like responding to text messages, responding to Slacks. All of those things just absolutely kill my productivity, because usually it's not like a boom, 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 boom. You could find this here. You could do this here. It's usually like let's solve this problem, or let's have this conversation. So I know that would absolutely kill my productivity. So how the hell do I get to the root of that, right? Maybe do not disturb isn't going to work for me, right? But we won't talk about Slack and all the billions that they're valuated at, and how their app doesn't actually shut down when I turn on do not disturb. But no, maybe it's the computer that I'm designing training programs on. Maybe I quit out of Slack during that instead of going to do not disturb, right? Obviously, it's not realistic to remove Slack from my laptop if I'm like using it when I'm not designing training programs. But going in there and proactively being like, okay, I know this is going to kill me if I get into my flow and this comes up. So it's like right clicking on the Slack icon and like quitting out of it, and it just disappearing from my computer until I relaunch it. Maybe it is putting my phone and my computer to do not disturb, so I get no text messages. I don't get any email notifications, right? If email was something that took me out of it, which isn't the case for me because I'm not like a habitual email checker, I would turn off notifications from emails, right? Like, imagine me saying, oh, I don't want to check my email every hour on the hour, every 15 minutes, but I have these notifications that are like making me do that. Notifications build habits in our daily practice, right? That's the benefit of notifications, and that's also the downside of notifications. So maybe I just go in my settings and I'm like, never, ever notify me when I get an email. I'll check my email at the top of the hour or every 2 hours or whatever that cadence is. So just getting to the root and solving that problem at the root instead of just continually band-aiding is an example of what someone can do to block that productivity blocker.
Yeah, I think there's like some deeper reflection on your own behaviors that you can do there as well. Because I think about the example you gave of like the responding to Slacks or texts or whatever it might be, and how time consuming that can end up feeling, and how it can pull you out of program design. And it's like, okay, let's remove the Slack app, let's put the phone in another room, whatever it might be, so that we don't have that distraction. But then it's like, what does it make? Why do I feel like I have to respond to people right now in the moment? Like, why can't I see that there's a notification and just be okay with not responding for 90 minutes or 2 hours or however long it takes me to write my programs? And I say this as someone that has a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
Like, I pride myself on being pretty quick with communication most of the time. I will say text messages I'm atrocious with. If you send me a text, especially if it's like during work hours and my mind is like on work and not on social stuff, I'll forget for like 3 days to reply to that person. Anyone that like knows me socially knows that's the case. Sorry, guys. But yeah, just like a little self-reflection. Like, why do I feel like I need to solve other people's problems like in the moment all the time? And sometimes there's legitimate reasons for it, right? Like, Carl, you're a leader, you lead our team, like you've got to be there for people. You want to be there for people, but I do think sometimes we think that we need to respond incredibly promptly because it's what we're all accustomed to, because communication is so instant now. But sometimes that's not the case.
Yeah. For me, honestly, when I see that someone needs something, or like I don't love knowing that I have something to do, if that makes sense, right? So I could easily not respond, right? Like, cool. Like, yeah, you can get a text message or a Slack back from me in an hour, but it's really hard for me to forget that thing.
Yeah.
That's my issue. It's hard for me to think or not think about it. So for me, it's just easier to not see it.
I agree.
Honestly.
I'm with you. I completely agree. Like, I'm a zero inbox person for that reason.
Yes, me too. Me too. Yeah, so that was number 2.
Yeah.
Get to the root.
Okay, we got to the root. What's next?
Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I think we hit everything. The last thing I wanted to say on that, sorry to go back to the root, is just strategizing how to lose those habits associated with those efficiency blockers.
Yep.
Last point on this, and this is just a different way of saying the same thing we've said a bunch of times already, but I think a lot of people do, because you did bring this up to start, a lot of people have issues with social media blocking their productivity. For those people, you don't need to have social media on your smartphone, right? Like, you don't need to. So
You're telling me I don't need to have an Instagram app on my phone?
No, I think Instagram allows you to do almost everything from your computer now. Not everything. But yeah, you don't need those social media platforms on your cell phone. If you're, I'm not saying it's evil to have them on there. If like these things aren't blocking your productivity, then go for it. Um, but it's really easy to, if those things easily block your productivity, when you're not in that flow, it's super easy to just like swipe up on your phone, unlock it, and just like hit that Instagram icon or that Facebook. Do people still go on Facebook? That Facebook icon or that Twitter icon to see what's going on in the news. So if those things are blocking your productivity, just remove those things completely from your phone. You'll be okay.
Don't have the cookies in the cupboard. Don't have the ice cream in the freezer if you don't want to eat sugar.
Exactly. There you go. The next thing, and we kind of hit this a few podcasts ago, but it was like having free time, right? Not feeling like if you do have that calendar like Georgia was talking about, it's okay for that calendar to not be just like back to back to back to back to back full all the time. And when you do have a space, you're not trying to fill it with something because you have space. It's okay to just like be with yourself. It's okay to just like wander. It's okay to contemplate. It's okay to think about something that has nothing to do with fitness and program design and coaching. Or it's okay to think about fitness and program design and coaching without actioning on anything, just sitting down and really thinking. So yeah, having free time and allowing yourself free time is another thing. And I think that connects to the, being at, not always being at 100% capacity, because people that are at 100% capacity just don't have the ability to have free time.
Yeah, this feels so relevant to. I pretty recently read Oliver Berkman's Time Management for Mortals,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great little short book. And he talked a lot about the need for free time and for space, but not using that as a justification, or not justifying that free time, that rest time, that vacation time with being more productive. Because a
Yeah.
lot of the times people are like, I'm going to take this time off, or I'm not going to do this thing, or I'm going to go take a holiday because it's going to allow me to be better or more productive at
Mm-hmm.
my work, at my job. What if we just did that because it's what we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Humans are made to have time just to sit with their thoughts, to enjoy leisure time, to spend time with their family, not because they're trying to get more productive, more work squeezed out of themselves, but just because that's what they do. And I thought that was a really important, salient reminder for people living in the 21st century
Yeah.
that it's okay to have that time and you don't have to justify it by the outcome of more work done at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Free time can be extremely revealing. Free time can spark new ideas. Free time could do nothing but just give you free time and allow your mind and your body to rest and recover. That's a good point where it's like, we don't take vacations to come back to work with better ideas. We might take a vacation and come back to work with a great idea because we had some time to like decompress and really think and, take that 20,000, 30,000, what do I even know what we say anymore? 60,000 foot view. How many thousands of a foot is it?
I have no idea.
I'm going to say 50,000 foot
We'll
view.
go with that.
But yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, just do it because you should do it, right? Because it is good to just like decompress. It is good to spend some time with your spouse or your kids, and just have some like free play time. If you look into the literature for children, what is extremely beneficial for development and growth in kids, it's having the ability to have unstructured free play time. And a lot of those reasons is because the kids come up with some really good strategies, having those like non-planned, non-supervised free play times with other humans, or sometimes even by themselves. Some really good stuff comes from like building an imagination. Some good stuff comes from being a leader. Some good stuff comes from a problem's in front of you. I have to figure out a way to solve this problem. Some good stuff comes from like I could move my body better, right? Because I have to like coming from a place of no plan, figure out how to get to point A to point B without this other human touching me. That sounded weird. I'm talking about tag. No, but I think those same benefits hold true for adults, right? Just having like free play time. It's like, what is playtime? Don't know, based on whatever the hell it is you want to do for your free play time. But I think it's beneficial to just give yourself that leash because our brains don't just stop developing, right? Like, they may not grow in size, but our brains do start to atrophy, definitely, right? So it's like, how do we challenge our brains enough in different situations where it's just not totally atrophying? If you're someone that you're work, 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 and you have no social life, what's going to atrophy? The ability to communicate with human beings, right? Let's say like you're a computer developer and you're just behind your computer all day, every day, and you're just developing and you never talk to human beings, and you're 30 years old when you start that and you stop when you're 50, you're going to lose some shit, right? So and even in what we do, if we just stay in this all day, every day, and we never get away from it, our ability to do everything else is going to atrophy. So yeah, having some free time and just getting away from it all, in little pockets. I'm not saying people have to go away for months and months at a time, but maybe it's an hour here, maybe it's 2 hours here, maybe it's a week. But I think that's super beneficial for adults as well.
Definitely. I'm putting free play on my calendar.
I like it. I like it. And then, yeah, just being busy doesn't mean that you're getting a lot done.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Being busy doesn't mean you're getting a lot done. Being busy doesn't mean that you're being extremely productive or efficient by any means. Yeah, that would be was that number 3?
That was number 3.
Yeah.
Do we have a number 4?
Yeah, of course we have a number 4. Yeah, 4 is my favorite number. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't, but
Yeah.
now I do.
Yeah. I always wore like number 4 as a kid growing up. And that's why the boys wear 14. They evolved the 4.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we definitely have a 4.
Okay.
Yeah, this last one is just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, eat well, sleep as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Move every single day.
Yep.
Some days make that movement more challenging than other days. Get outdoors every day, depending on where you live. Even if you live somewhere cold and rainy, just peek your head out there. Get outside every day. If there's sun, even better. Hydrate and have some you time. And this is a little bit different than free time, right? Have some you time, because sometimes free time can be spent with others.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to prioritize yourself as well, even if you're super busy. You're a manager of a bunch of people and you have a family or whatever the case is. Have some time just for you without other humans or friends, and not feeling like you always have to be social with other people.
Definitely. It's incredibly, incredibly hard to be productive, to feel productive if you are not feeling 100%. Whether that's because you're stressed about something that's happening in your relationships, whether you are feeling like you have allergies like I do right now. You guys can probably tell by the way that I sound, but but it definitely makes it hard to focus. So everything that you can do to make sure that you're operating at the closest to your potential through looking after your daily behaviors is going to help productivity.
Yeah, usually the people that take the best care of themselves, they see the most issues with productivity or efficiency when something is off.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you're feeling a little bit under the weather, when you have like this weird thing in your neck going on and you can't turn to the left. That was me yesterday. It's like a really weird thing. When, you maybe drank some alcohol last night, and you usually don't drink alcohol. That's definitely not me today. I'm not saying that because I'm hungover right now. Just like little things like they notice, right? The people that take care of themselves, they notice that stuff. Sometimes people that just like that is their baseline and that's where they live and they're unproductive, they may not connect those dots. So if you're a coach, I hope you're not in that situation. But if you are, think about that. And if you have clients where they can't focus, they're not efficient in whatever it is they do, they're not productive. If they have a really bad lifestyle, that definitely is contributing to their lack of cognitive abilities or inabilities to focus.
Yeah, my husband likes to tease me because I am so sensitive to little shifts in my routine, like a glass of wine, whatever it might be, will like totally throw me off for the next day because I'd say I'm pretty dialed in most of the time with how I live my life. And he's like, these OPEX BLGs, I've turned you into a snowflake sort of thing. And sometimes I'm like, I wonder what it would be like if I just didn't know. I didn't know that I was supposed to drink half my body weight in ounces of water. I didn't know that I was supposed to eat veggies and not eat a bunch of sugar. I didn't know I was supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. Would I feel like crap, or would I just be fine operating at how I was operating? And I
Yeah.
think you get used to whatever your baseline is,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that isn't a reason to have a lower baseline.
Yeah. No, but he has a point, right? Like, someone that never has any curveballs, they don't have resilience, right? Imagine if you went into the gym every day and you did 10 squats, 10 sit-ups, 10 push-ups, you walked for 5 minutes and you left, and then one day you went in there and you did bench press, you did back squats, you did sprints on the runner, and then you left. How are you going to feel the next day, right? You're going to feel like, oh man, I feel sore, like I can't move my arms, my pecs, my quads, everything's just like on fire, right? Like that person doesn't have the physical resilience, right? Like they haven't done those things before. So when they do those things, they're definitely going to feel it the next day. And I'm not saying like, George, you need to make sure that you're drinking wine 3 times a week. But no, when we don't have those physical or I don't know, physiological resilience pieces built inside of us because we don't do those things, we're going to feel it when we do them. So I do think resilience is super important. I think this comes into play most of the time with like nutrition. When people try to be so dialed in nutrition, and it's like everything has to be perfect, it has to be this and this and this, and then they have like half a cookie and they're just like on the toilet the entire next day because their gut has no resilience to digest that cookie because it had like this thing inside of it that they haven't had in a while. That's why I think there's some validity in kind of not going off the rails, but just like being okay with going a little bit to the left a little bit sometimes.
Definitely. I think there's definitely like the physiological effects of stuff like that, but there's also a mental side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm normally so perfect and I wasn't this one time, so I know I'm going to feel terrible. And you
Yeah.
like build it up in your head and then it becomes worse than it was.
Yep.
Ugh.
Cool.
Let's go eat a cookie.
Let's go eat some cookies.
Any takeaways? Any last kind of productivity takeaways that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
No, I think, I'm just happy that we attack this a little bit differently in education this time, and I hope it helps people. For people that are in LearnRx, we have a forum, for this class. So consume the class. Even if you're not in LearnRx, consume the class. It's free. Go in, take the class, and let's have some conversations around it, and let's talk about how we can make ourselves a little bit more productive if that's the direction we need to go. And if things are good for you, like don't feel like you have to like eke out that last percentage of efficiency or productivity. Just be good with where you are. We don't always have to work on our efficiencies and productivities 365, 24/7.
Absolutely. Well, guys, as a reminder, there's a link below to click to go ahead and access that free class. We hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.